Hello, welcome to another video. Today we are going to do something a little unorthodox for this channel, and I'm going to actually give a spoiler review for the Flash movie. It's been about a week since I've seen it, and I can't iterate enough how amazing this movie is, in my opinion. Um, Out of the last 10 years, with the standard DCEU now being rebranded, I guess, as the DCU, starting with Man of Steel, um, I will say Man of Steel has been my favorite DC movie over the last 10 years or so. And The Flash, honestly, has kicked Man of Steel out of the water for me. Superman has always been my favorite superhero. I have enjoyed more of the Marvel movies over the last several decades. Say maybe the last 20 years or so. I've definitely enjoyed more of the Marvel side of the movies. However, Superman has always been my favorite. I grew up watching Smallville, so I'm partial to that TV show and that version of Clark Kent. When they came out with Superman Returns, I wasn't really fond of that movie or that version or portrayal of Superman. Definitely not that portrayal of Lex Luthor. But Man of Steel came out, and I was in love with that movie. I loved the gritty take that Zack Snyder did with that version of Superman, and I just was in love with that movie. Every subsequent movie that followed that didn't live up to it, in my opinion, until The Flash came along. And let me tell you, there was about maybe a 5 minute mark right at the beginning of the movie where I stepped out because I had one of my daughters with me and she was hungry. So I stepped out to get her some food at the snack bar. So I missed about a 5 minute chunk within about a half an hour of the in about half an hour into the movie. So there are some things that I missed in that time span that I will be going back and watching. Today I'm recording this the day before the movie officially releases. I did see a pre-screening of it for free, and I will go ahead and say that I will definitely be paying to see this movie. Specifically, it was that good. And also too, so that way I can go ahead and watch what I missed. But the movie starts off with the Flash, basically like kind of how the recent trailer starts, where he's trying to get some food because he's really low on energy. He gets a call from Ben Affleck's Batman for help, and that's basically how the movie starts, and that's when he runs into that's when he runs into his fans out on the street. That's the very beginning of the movie. But he goes into a coffee shop to get a high caloric, I guess, peanut butter type of sandwich, and the person who usually makes his sandwich for him isn't working at this point on this day that he's going in. So he's encountered with a brand new person, and he's trying to get the person to speed up and hurry up and make the sandwich. He's like, man, a perfect sandwich takes time. Da 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 da. That that kind of saying, but that kind of kicks off his kind of his mission, and kind of explains how he operates in terms of needing the energy to be able to run fast and whatnot. It then goes into this sequence where it's this is one of the parts where they have some comedy in it. So he's saving some people from a falling building, and he's at a point where he has to save a bunch of babies, like either 8 or 10 babies that are in a nursery hospital, and he's trying to save them from falling to their death, along with the nurse that's taking care of them. And during this sequence, they it's similar to the effect of what they did with Quicksilver and X Men, the most recent X Men movies. The one that comes to mind most specifically is X Men It wasn't First Class. It was the one right after that when they first introduced Quicksilver. Um, the the side title is not coming to me at this point, but it was the one right after First. Was it First Class? Honestly, I forget which movie introduced Quicksilver, but they kind of mimicked that, and then as he's losing energy, you see time is starting to move a little bit faster, and then he basically steals food from a vending machine, starts eating it, and then time is then retroactively slowing down as he's gaining that energy. So the way they make him look as he's eating all that food is just really funny. And so he, gets all his energy back, saves the babies, saves everyone from falling to their death from the falling building and whatnot. And then meets up with Ben Affleck Batman, and then I'm trying to recall at this point because I think just after this is when I left the theater. But he uh, he has a conversation with Batman saying that he can reverse time and whatnot, and then apparently he enters the Speed Force. I'll say I like the way they did the Speed Force in this movie. It's completely different from how they show the Speed Force in the Flash TV show. The Flash TV show, and it was very, very unique. And I really enjoyed how they portrayed the look of the Speed Force and him going back and reversing time. They use this effect several times in the movie because, it's a multiverse movie. I will say that the second Barry that he runs into is actually legitimately a past version of him. I know there's a couple of other channels like New Rock Stars. Maybe I don't know if Screen Crush mentioned this or had this as a theory. Maybe they may have. I don't recall. But there were some theories that this second Barry may have been like Reverse Flash. This is not Reverse Flash at all. And they kind of explain it. But if you're familiar with the comics or more specifically the Flash TV show, um, in the Flash TV show, we have a speedster called Savitar. Savitar is essentially a future version of Barry, that he basically created as a time remnant. So essentially, we have this second Barry that's in the yellow stuff in the trailers, in the yellow clothing and the yellow headphones. He ends up kind of being like a time remnant. He doesn't eventually end up being Savitar. Uh, at first, and this is going to heavy spoiler territory. When Okay, so Barry, original Barry, current timeline Barry, he goes back into the past to save his mother. As he's running back to the future, because he specifically goes back to the past to save his mother, so that way he can go back and live with her in the present. So as he's running back to the present, a time wraith comes and kicks him out of the Speed Force, and so he lands into I basically the year that Superman essentially defeats Zod. The year that Zod comes to Earth and Superman beats him and whatever. So at this point, during this year, I forget the specific year that Zod comes to Earth. I think it falls within the same year that Man of Steel was released. But during this year, Barry Allen is 18 years old. So I think it's about maybe five or so years in the past is when he gets kicked out by the Time Wraith, out of the Speed Force. The Time Wraith ends up being the 18-year-old, a time remnant of the 18-year-old of Barry Allen, and he explains it as, um, I um, I'm this version of you, but I kicked you out of the Speed Force so you can create this version of me because my current version, you were trying to keep me from doing what I wanted to do, so I had to create another version of me and have you create another version of me to do what to accomplish what I wanted to accomplish. Is essentially what it is, and essentially what he was trying to accomplish was saving everyone in the entire world due to Zod's actions, and not having anyone die, like not having Batgirl die, not having Batman die, not having anyone die at all. That's a hero or his parents or anything like that. So that's heavy spoilers going to the end of the movie, but coming back to when he's first using the Speed Force to come back into the present, he gets kicked out by the Time Wraith. In the during this time in the Speed Force, we do see little cameos. We didn't the in terms of actually what I saw, because I think what I missed in the 5 minutes was his first attempt in time traveling and whatnot into the past. Because when I came back, he apparently said to Ben Affleck's Batman that he had just came back from living the same day twice. So apparently he accidentally went back in time a full day, a full 24 hours. So apparently I missed that part, but I didn't see if there was any cameos during that part of the movie. But during this time when he's running back to the present and he gets kicked to 5 years ago, there were some cameos. We didn't see a Grant Gustin cameo during this part, but there was a cameo from the Flash TV show, which ended up being Teddy Sears' character Zoom, and it's not the Zoom. He's not in the Zoom costume, but you'll recognize him as his character where he was trying to pass himself off as the CW's version of Jay Garrick for the Flash TV show. So that's what he looks. That's the cameo there, where I forget the actual character's name, who played Zoom, but when in the beginning of that particular season we have the character who's who's acting like he's Jay Garrick, but he's actually Zoom, but I forget the real character's name. But I know the actor's name is Teddy Sears. So that's the only cameo that came in from the CW Flash show. But we don't see Grant Gustin or any other characters or anything from that TV series. And then we see a couple of other cameos. We do see, in terms of this particular segment, we do see, I believe, Christopher Reeve's Superman, and we see Supergirl. I believe during this segment. At some point, we see a George Reeves cameo, but I'm not. I forget if it's in this segment or if it's in a later segment in the Speed Force and whatnot. And then I believe we see a couple of different cameos that I'm not quite recalling right now. But that's what we're seeing here in this particular segment. And then he gets kicked out by the Time Wraith, is what I call it, because that's what they called it in the Flash TV show. So, but I'm not sure if that's what they're officially called here in the movie. That's just what I'm calling them, is the Time Wraith. The alternate version of Barry Allen. And then, he goes to see his parents and has dinner with them or lunch with them or whatever, like they show in the trailer. And then he sees his past version of himself, and then when he runs into himself, he wears like a little shirt or something around his head to mask his identity, and then alternate Barry, 18-year-old Barry, pulls it off, and he was like, "You stole my face, la da da." And so they go into this whole discussion like, "Yeah, man, you have powers and this, and that," and the 18-year-old Barry is just hella immature, like so, like it's crazy, like he's just so dumb, and he apparently he's not working at Star. Is it Star Labs in this movie? I want to say it's Star Labs that he was originally working at, but he's not working at during this timeline because he had both his parents. His mother's still alive. His dad didn't go to prison, so it altered his course of what he what wanted to do. But on that note, he ended up being kicked into the day where he actually gets his powers. This is the specific day that he gets his powers on the original timeline. So they end up going to meet Batman, and at this point, uh, present day Barry doesn't know yet that it's a different version of Batman. But he's like, let's go visit Batman because we need to get you your powers so that way I don't disappear. Because if you don't get your powers, there's gonna be like a time paradox, and I'll just disappear, and I can't disappear because if I disappear, then that's gonna mess the whole timeline up. And so they go to the Wayne Mansion. He finds out um, that Aquaman doesn't exist, that Clark Kent doesn't exist, that Victor Stone never turned into Cyborg, and there's no oh, we do get a cameo from Wonder Woman before he time travels. Wonder Woman does help him in his saving thing in the beginning of the movie. So there's that. Wonder Woman does make a cameo. But in this alternate timeline, apparently Wonder Woman does not exist. And so he sees uh, he and 18-year-old Barry Allen end up getting their asses handed to them by Michael Keaton. And then he's like, "Yeah, I'm here to see Bruce Wayne," and he's like, "I am Bruce Wayne." He's like, "What? You're not Batman." He's like, "I used to be Batman," and that they go into a conversation about how time travel works in this movie and how timelines work. Michael Keaton actually has a really good explanation for how time travel works in this movie, and the way he explains it is he takes some spaghetti, and he's like, if you go back in time and change something, it changes the future, but not only does it change the future, but it also changes the past. So that's why I look different from your version of Batman, is because you changed something in the past, and it changed both the past and the present and the future, or not both, but it changed the past, the present, and the future in this particular timeline for you. So that was his explanation of how time travel works, and gets into this whole thing where, okay, yeah, I'll help you with getting this Barry's powers, and he's like, for the record, I think this is crazy, but I'll still help you. And so, they go through all that, and of course, it works. Whereas in the Flashpoint comics and in the what is it? The animated movie, it doesn't work initially, and then they have to try it again, and then it works. In this particular movie, it works. However, the original Flash's powers transferred to the 18-year-old Barry Allen. And so the original Barry Allen has to go out without his powers for a certain amount of time. So that was pretty interesting. I kind of like that idea that the powers transferred instead of just not working at all. And then they had to figure out how to get the original Barry his powers back. And in which case, that's why you see in the trailer Kara bringing him up into the clouds. So that's the original Barry Allen that she's carrying to get lightning striked in that thunderstorm, so that way he can get his powers back. Um, anyway, they or excuse me, Barry goes into research trying to find Clark Kent, or yeah, try to basically find Clark Kent, because he at this point they see that Zod has come to Earth, and he's going to do the whole terraforming and destroy Earth and everything, and so he does research to try to find out if his ship ever came to Earth, and so lo and behold, he finds out that the ship landed in Russia. And if you are familiar with the alternate realities and everything on the comic book side, and especially in the animated movie side, there is a Russian Clark Kent and Russian Superman, I think titled Red Sun or something like that. So they end up going to Russia to find who they believe is Clark, and they end up finding Kara Zor-El, Supergirl. So they They end up rescuing her, and as soon as in the little base that she's in, they have mimicked the actual red sun to keep her skinny and frail and powerless. And then as soon as she is brought into the sunlight, she starts getting her powers and starts gaining her strength and whatnot. So she ends up helping them uh, with her escaping, and then after that, she's basically like, "Yeah, humans kept me locked up for all this time. I don't want anything to do with saving the human race, whatever." And then she leaves, and then she sees how Zod is killing the humans and how evil he's being and everything. And then she finds out that he ends up killing um, Kal-El. And so after she finds out that he killed Kal-El as a baby, she that's when she changes her mind and she's like, "Yeah, okay, I'll help you save the human race and I'll help you save Earth." And with that, that's when they get into the big in peace battle. And at this point, they basically win the battle, with the exception of um, they're at the very end and they're like in the home stretch. Batman decides to try to take down the very last ship, the very last Kryptonian ship. Unbeknownst to him, it has a shield on it. So when he tries to do it, they end up attacking and killing him. Kara Zor-El ends up getting tricked and stabbed by Zod, and then he takes what he needs from her, which is, I think, her blood, ends up killing her. And then 18-year-old Flash is like, "Okay, well, we need to go back in time and fix this and warn them." So they both present day Barry Allen and 18-year-old Barry Allen go back in time together to do what they need to do. Present day goes to warn Batman, and then 18-year-old one goes to help Supergirl. And it doesn't work. They both still end up dying, and so they go back into the Speed Force. But then present day Barry Allen is like, "You know what? We need to stop and think about this and come up with a strategic plan to make this right." And then 18-year-old Barry Allen, because he's so immature and inexperienced, he's like, "No, I got this. Let me do this." Da-da-da-da-da. And then he keeps going in an infinite amount of times back into time to try to fix it. And after like the second or third time, he's like, "Man, what are you doing? Are you just standing here? You're not gonna help?" And he just keeps going and going and going, trying to save Superman and Batman, or excuse me, Supergirl and Batman. And finally, present day Barry Allen is just like, "Man, you need to stop and listen and think about this. This what you're doing is not going to work because these are basically absolute points in time, and you're basically causing all these timelines to converge, and you're eventually going to destroy this world, or destroy this timeline." And at this point, we kind of see the timelines, or the multiple world. They kind of display it as multiple worlds coming in and colliding and smashing each other, and and you can see that they're about to get destroyed, and you see a bunch of them, like clips from like George Reeves, Christopher Reeves' world. You actually see Nicolas Cage as Superman in one of them, and he's fighting a horde of zombies, or not zombies, a horde of spiders with a very large giant spider. And let me tell you, the way they depicted that with Nicolas Cage's Superman, it looks awesome. I really wish we could have gotten that movie and seen it, because I do know that that movie, when it was dropped, they ended up converting that into Wild Wild West, and Wild Wild West did not do well, and it did not look cool. The Nicolas Cage Superman plot with him fighting a giant spider, they made it look so cool. I'm telling you, I really wish we would have gotten that movie. But we do see Nicolas Cage's Superman as a cameo. Um, and then that's when we get the Time Wraith saying, "Yeah, this is what I did to kick you out, so that way you can create this version of Barry Allen." because you tried to stop me from saving Batman and Supergirl, and so I did this so that way I can keep trying to do that. And then present day Barry Allen eventually defeats the Time Wraith and talks sense into 18-year-old Barry, and it goes back to normal. And Barry is like, okay, well, I gotta. Present day Barry is like, okay, well, I gotta go back to where I originally saved my mom and basically kill her again, like he basically does in the Flashpoint comic book and Flashpoint movie. And it's like, yeah, if I save my mom, or if I go back and don't save my mom, then that's going to reset everything and put everything back to normal. But as in the comic book and the animated movie and even in the TV show, it doesn't exactly reset everything to how it was before. Because like Michael Keaton's Batman said, if you change the past, you change the entire timeline, past, present, and future. So once he resets the timeline, he goes back and is able to go back to his present day, and he talks to Bruce Wayne and says, "Man, I need to talk to you because I did something that you told me not to do, and I'm sorry." And da 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 da. And he's like, Bruce Wayne is like, "Hold on, we'll talk about it. I'm coming up right now. I'm pulling up right now." He's like, "Okay, okay." And so then we get George Clooney's Bruce Wayne, and Flash is like, "Wait a minute, you're not Batman." And George Clooney is like, "Are you out of your mind?" And then roll credits, man. They rolled credits on that part. But that was like everybody cheered. It was like I was like, "What? They brought George Clooney's Batman in this?" I had a small percentage of an idea that they might have brought him in, but I was not expecting them to actually bring him in, and that was so cool. I don't remember a mid credit scene, but there was definitely a post credit scene at the very end where Flash is with Aquaman and they're drinking, and Aquaman is drunk, and Flash is trying to explain to him, "Yeah, man, my metabolism is so fast that I can't get drunk," and he's trying to explain that to him, and Aquaman is just like, "Oh man, whatever, just keep drinking with me. Let's go to another bar," and then he slumbers over into a puddle. Because he's so drunk, and being that he's Aquaman, he just lays his face in the puddle and whatnot. It was a pretty funny post credit scene. But I'm telling you, it's the way they have it set up. It makes it seem like they're setting up George Clooney as the continued Batman in the present day universe. But knowing them, they're probably just going to keep it as Robert Pattinson for now. But that's basically my spoiler review. I know this is going on for quite some time, but I wanted to at least try to make this video to see, how well it'll do. It's kind of unorthodox for this movie. I really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun to watch, and I'm looking forward to seeing it again, especially to see what I missed. And I'm pretty sure even what I did see, there was still stuff that I missed, as you've seen in this video, there's even stuff that I've forgotten about that I've seen, and it's because it's been about a week. But anyway, let me know what you guys think of the movie if you haven't seen the movie already, or if you've seen it and you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you thought about the cameos in the movie, and yeah, all right. I'll catch you on the next one, and make sure to like and subscribe.